Welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. This is episode 20. I'm Logan.
And I'm Luke.
And today we're going to be discussing the Fantastic Four. So, if you haven't seen it yet, don't watch. Go see it.
Circle back and
then
watch.
Yeah.
But overall, I think we both agree that it was a very solid introduction to this new team of Fantastic Four members, and it, I think, broke the curse of it being like a guaranteed bad Fantastic Four movie, which, to be fair, and I think you share this, I don't hate the original ones because I grew up with them. I hate the Fantastic Four movie from 2015 with Miles Teller, but I think this was a very, very comic booky Fantastic Four that was a huge step in the right direction for that team.
I agree. And I think it's kind of been a trend that everyone is trying to go to that more comic booky direction because that's like, I guess kind of what's like popular now.
Yeah.
But this was a good example of like Marvel also heading toward that.
Yeah.
Because this was like pretty much, to me, it seemed like a Fantastic Four storyline that you could have pulled straight out of a page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything about it was like, all right, like this was like a comic book. Like, it's written like a comic book.
And they really leaned into that like sci-fi aspect of like the Fantastic Four of like, also like in terms of how smart they have to be able to do the stuff they do in the movie. So like Reed being as smart as he is, they're just like, oh, we have a problem, like ask Reed and he'll know how to do it and like deal with it and everything. But also in like addition to that, they don't just make the Thing and like Human Torch just like muscle and like, you know, like character presence with them. They really like strengthen that whole like they work as a team well because they're able to like think kind of on the same level. And it's kind of like a joke in the movie that they don't think Johnny's as smart as the rest of them, but he is like still smart enough to like keep up with what's going on in scenes where they're talking about like dealing with like black holes and like going to the far ends of space and stuff like that. Like there's not any scenes where they're like going out of their way to be like, Johnny, this is what this means or anything like that. So that's something I really appreciate, and I felt like it made them seem more like a team instead of, like you were saying, they all do seem like very individual, but they do work really well as a team in this movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that they done a very good job of showing in this one that like they are like a family, you know what I mean? Like they talk about like the Sunday dinners and stuff and all that, and they do all this stuff together. They live together, they, you know what I mean? They share this bond that I feel like in like other Fantastic Four movies, like that wasn't like a thing. But in the comics, you know, that is. Like they are like a family.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that they've done a very good job with in this movie just because you're like, all right, obviously, you know, they are like a team and they do this together and all that, but like it was a really good character element for each one of them, and like it also made like, well, in the events of the movie, it made sense as to what was going on with like them being there for each other and all that, and it made it feel like, all right, like they're like in this together. They got each other's backs. They trust each other.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times in the older ones, especially, like like they were together. They enjoy each other's presence, but it's not like, you know, these ones like they really punch it home. Like like these guys are a family. Like this is like them. They are together.
They also, in that kind of like opening montage where they're kind of explaining, since this is like a new universe that we're being introduced to in the MCU, which I guess like I also thought was another strength of the movie because it just allows them to be the Fantastic Four, and like this is a world where they were like the protectors, and so like that played into a part of like them dealing with the threat and like the plan overall. But in that kind of like opening thing where they're showing you news footage and like giving you voiceovers of them before they were the team and like afterwards, they have that point of like Reed Richards saying, I was lucky enough to like be able to do this with like my best friend, my wife, and my brother-in-law. So it's like, they're like a unit of people who already were like entangled in each other's lives, instead of them being like, oh yeah, they loosely know each other and then are they just like forced to be closer. Like they were already a family. And, with that, what you're saying about, like, what goes on in the movie, it does help them to kind of have not only, like, Sue and Reed's protectiveness of Franklin once he's born, but also you can see it in, like, Ben and Johnny throughout the film of, like, how protective they are of Franklin, too.
And we discussed it a little bit off camera, but I think their character development stuff was really cool just to see, like, after they had Franklin, like, there was, like, moments where, like, Ben had Franklin and he was taking care of him and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, there'd just be random times throughout the movie where, like, Sue and Reed were busy and he's just walking around, like, taking care of the baby.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Johnny was, like, Uncle Johnny. He was, like, doing everything to try to, like, be there and help with the baby and stuff like that. And then, obviously, Sue and Reed had their moments with him and stuff. I thought that was really cool, which I know in past Fantastic Fours and stuff like that, like, we never really had that because, in 2015 they were, like, 17 and that wasn't, like, a thing. And then, and then in, like, the early ones, they didn't have Franklin. But I think it was cool just to see that, too. Like, it kind of helped with, like, their characters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I also think, in terms of, like, their characters and stuff like that, too, I really liked the way that they done the characters this time. Because, like, with, like, Reed, there was the moments where, like, obviously he was there trying to help everyone, be with his family, all that. But it also showed, like, the internal struggles of him, like, being, like, logic-based in, like, his thinking and stuff like that, more so compared to, like, an empath and stuff like that. Mm. And then, like, Sue wanting to be there for, like, everybody and, like, the baby and stuff, but being more of, like, the opposite, like, family-oriented and stuff like that. Johnny, like you said, he wasn't, like, an idiot or just, like, a stupid kind of, like, womanizer, playboy, like he has been portrayed in the past. Like, there was more to him in this, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, he was definitely, like, one of the... Well, I feel like they all had their moments to shine, but they definitely gave him, like, some moments where he's, like, actually pulling off really, like, integral stuff instead of just being, like, a heavy hitter in action sequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, not to cut you off, but with, like, Ben, I liked how he was, like, also really into, like, the family stuff, and it wasn't one of those things where I feel like in the past, it's, like, a lot of times he's just like, oh, like, I'm the big brute, and I'm either just angry or I'm, like, sulking over the fact that I'm a rock man. And they address that.
They do.
And, like, he's like, yeah, like, it sucks. I'm a rock man, but also, it's nobody's fault, and I'm still here with you guys. Which I thought that was a pretty cool scene. Because rather than just being upset about it the whole time, he was just like, yeah, I acknowledge it, but,
Yeah. And in terms of, like, his characteristics throughout the movie, he does just... Like, there's that whole scene where there's, like, kids in the schoolyard, like, shouting at him to, like, show off his powers, basically. And he's just reacting like a regular dude would, I feel like, with that powers and, like, with this being his life now, just being like, oh, yeah, all right, like, I'll show you kids what you're asking for and stuff. So I liked that. Unfortunately, I felt like, and not that he wasn't useful, I felt like with the threat being Galactus, like, they do have it where Thing, you can use his strength against Galactus in certain ways, but, like, ultimately that's not going to be that much of a thing other than, like, maybe delaying him a few seconds, which he does successfully do a few times, but it's both, like, a strength and weakness, because, like, the strength, his whole power set is supposed to be, like, he's strong and he's, like, their muscle. But also, I feel like it was a huge strength of his character then that they're like, all right, well, for the sakes of this story, that's not going to be, like, what makes him useful to the team. What makes him the most useful to the team in this is, like, his ability to, like, delegate Reed and Sue's thinking process. So, like, when they're going about the whole plan that Reed comes up with, where they're literally going to, like, move Earth, the Thing, or Ben, is able to, like, be on par with them and be, like, coordinating when they turn on the machines and stuff. Whereas when I look at, like, the early 2000s Fantastic Four, I would be a little more, like, questioning of, like, if... And, like, the old one wasn't, like, just stupid, but, like, they definitely make this one's Smart's like more of a strength.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that it's one of those things where in this one they kind of showed that like he was like the one that like I guess tied everyone together, like helped ground everyone in like the group. Because like Reed, he was always so worried about like the baby and Sue and the world and like thinking about stuff and all that. Sue was obviously worried about everybody, but like especially like Franklin and stuff like that. And then Johnny had his own internal issues and stuff throughout the show or the movie. And I feel like Ben the whole time was like, all right, like if anybody needs anything, like I'm here. Like everybody's, chill, calm down. Like he's like the glue of like I guess the more so of like the family aspect of all of it. Like, and he was like always helping with the dinners and stuff and making sure everybody was like held accountable and stuff like that. Yeah. So I feel like that was like a big part of his character, which I thought was kind of cool. Kind of like that like Papa Bear kind of energy.
He was very Papa Bear, yeah. Yeah, I think going back on what you said about to like Reed and Sue, like they obviously have like a very strong marriage in it, but I do think it was interesting. There was that whole scene where it's like their ideologies clash head on, where it's like Reed didn't necessarily say like that he was ever going to sacrifice Franklin, but that he was kind of able to empathize with the fears of their world of being like, you're asking us all to like die for your child who might die anyway, like if or who Galactus might take anyway, like just for you all to like be able to keep your son, all of us have to die, or you could just hand him over and save all of us. And Reed kind of had that whole thing where he's like, I have to like be aware of the worst possible thing before everybody's ready to accept it, just to like prepare for everything that's worse, which was really like Iron Man mentality too, especially like when you think about Ultron and stuff. So when he comes into the fold with other characters, that'll be interesting to see his leadership aspects. But I also think that was an opportunity for them to elevate Sue's position on the team, because she pretty early in this movie they established she's like also pretty high up in their hierarchy of just decision making, and she's also extremely smart. So she has more of like the empathetic side to the intelligence of like this knowledge and stuff, which I also appreciated that about her.
Yeah. Well, in moving away from the four, let's get into some of the other characters like Galactus and Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
In this,
I think to start off, I think Galactus looked awesome throughout the whole movie. He looked like perfect.
I agree. I think this is what everyone so desperately wanted / needed from this like MCU Galactus.
Yeah.
Because we've never really had like an accurate Galactus, and then going into this, like everything about it just so good. Like anytime he's on the screen, he's menacing. He looked awesome, sounded awesome. I mean, just
voice.
Exactly what you wanted from Galactus.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
I also think it was so cool that like throughout the movie, from like the first like spark of knowing like that Galactus is coming, it's like he's just unstoppable. Like you have to come up with something incredible just to even delay him, because he's coming. Like you can't really negotiate with him, because they say like the price he's asking for is too high, and so that his like menacingness worked on a lot of different levels, because like even when they first show him and he's just like kind of in the dark with like the glow in the back, you just see like his eyes and everything. He's so like intimidating and like cosmically eerie is I guess the right way to put it, and it really matches that tone of like when Silver Surfer first shows up and is like he's coming and like he's going to end everything. Like you then see him and you're like, oh yeah, this is it.
I do think, and this is, I'm not saying that he's like stronger or anything like that necessarily or anything like that, but on-screen presence while you're watching the movie, I feel like his presence is like scarier than even like Thanos was when he was on screen, because just like Thanos, you knew that like he had the gauntlet, he could do all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? Like he could do basically whatever he wanted and all that. But like Thanos, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because of like how like he was like smaller and stuff like that. But like Thanos seemed like, all right, like this guy's like beatable. But when you're watching the four take on Galactus and like try not even take him on, try to like slow him down so they can do like their plan. Like he literally like his force, his presence on screen, everything just looks like he like can't be stopped. Like it's like what kind of team would you have to stop him?
Yeah. And also, like, from, like, the get-go of their plan isn't to stop him, because they can't. Like, they do kind of make the point of saying, like, he's just a cosmic force, and, like, he's necessary to, like, the balance of the universe and stuff. But it is, like, it definitely leaves the door open for, at the end of the movie, that they don't defeat him, and they just moved him somewhere else. And that Silver Surfer went in after him. They like stopped him in the end. That he's going to come back in some way, shape, or form. And like knowing his backstory from like the comics and stuff is that he was. I think it's that he's from the universe before what we know to be the Big Bang and stuff like that. So it's like whatever goes on with the future of Marvel and stuff, they can always just come back to like, oh yeah, it's the same guy, by the way. He just might look a little different or sound a little different, whatever. But yeah, the whole thing about the issue in this movie of dealing with Galactus is that they can't solve it with just a big punch in the face and stuff. Like, they just have to outsmart him and delay him. Like, because he's so powerful that they can't do anything more than that.
Yeah. And I think that's just, like, phenomenal. Just, like, perfect for Galactus.
Yeah.
Also, I think Silver Surfer in this was fantastic, which I know at first people were questioning it because they're like, oh yeah, like it's not like the traditional Silver Surfer, you know what I mean? Like it's female Silver Surfer, all that. But honestly, when you're seeing her do like her like role, all of it on screen, all that, like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like she just done a phenomenal job. And also just like having it be Shalabah instead of I can't think of his name.
No, I think it's Norrin Rad.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. Like it doesn't really change anything, but also like it doesn't really matter. Like she's just awesome. Like she does. I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't really imagine it being anybody else, just at least in this particular movie.
Yeah. She fit. She looked great. Like the CGI on her was also really good. And her voice also has that like sort of like eerie, echoey vibe to it, which is like exactly what I expect from, you know, a character you just see in comic books. But also they do a good job of showcasing how powerful she is, of just like literally surfing through a black hole and like chasing them through the speed of light and stuff like that, and she can like move through walls and stuff. Also her like presence in its own is a major problem, because they show like to get to the ends of space where Galactus is, they had to like go through space and time and like have like special protections against what's going on, and then she literally just like drop into their ship and be like, by the way, like follow me, but like we're not happy you're here. I don't think like when I first heard that like there's gonna be a female Silver Surfer, I was like, oh okay, because I didn't necessarily know that there was like a lot of different Silver Surfers, because I knew there's like different heralds and stuff. I didn't have like a huge problem with it. I was just like, okay, I don't know what that's gonna look like. And then, you know, since then, people have been saying stuff about it, and it's like, oh, this is a thing that happens in the comic books. Like, she's, I think, the original one's girlfriend and stuff. So I don't really understand, I guess, the anger towards that. And I feel like if you go see the movie, you can't really be angry about it, because she's just as cool.
Yeah, it was awesome,
So, yeah, she was also a strength of the movie, and I thought she was a good opportunity to showcase Johnny
Yeah.
and his smarts of like solving what she's saying and using it to like basically logic attack her
Yeah.
with it to be like, oh crap, and in the end it like paid off because she like chose to help out instead of just be like, nah, I don't care, like I gotta do what I gotta do. So that was cool.
Yeah. Overall, do you think this is like, well, just in general, compared to like the other ones, obviously it's a step above. It's a better movie, you know what I mean? But do you think this is like a pretty good step in the right direction towards hopping into what will be Doomsday?
I think yes, that especially like it makes me excited to see the Fantastic Four again. So like when they show up in Doomsday, I'll be happy to see them. I'm not gonna be like, oh god, like it's these people who we're gonna rely too heavily on now. It makes sense how big of a part they're going to be in it, especially with Doom being the bad guy. My main thing with that is I was expecting there to be a little, like just a touch more. I'm talking maybe like 2 more seconds of screen time of like a hard introduction to Doom, because, and again, can't express enough spoiler warning, but like at the very ending post-credit scene, you see, or maybe it was the first post-credit scene.
It was the first post-credit scene.
You see Doom like just from behind, and he's interacting with Franklin, and then it just cuts to black. I was expecting him to maybe say something or like take Franklin or something, and I think that's going to be the implication, is that he wants Franklin for whatever his plan is going to be. But I also don't hate the fact that that's kind of left up to like, what is he going to do? Like, what does he want, you know?
I think it's one of those things where it's like, as fans, we want that like hard like Doom launch, because you're like, all right, like it's Doom, you know what I mean, versus Fantastic Four or whatever. So you kind of want that. And you kind of think about it and you're like, man, like Doom and like Fantastic Four, like they're like, you know, prime enemies, you know what I mean, like they hate each other. So for us to go into an entire movie where Doom is the villain, but them not even really know each other yet, it's kind of like, man, like what's that going to look like? Because I want them to like hate each other, which I'm assuming what will happen, especially since obviously Doom will be in the mainline MCU universe, but as of now we've only seen him in the Fantastic Four universe. Something's going to happen where they're all going to go there, and that's going to cause a whole thing. So I'm sure there will get to a point and there will be like the big, like, all right, now they do hate each other. You know what I mean? At the beginning of Doomsday. But, you know, you also don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean? You don't want to open that can of worms at the end of a movie that had nothing to really do with him.
Yeah.
So
I think in watching this too, it took me a second to like process it while we were watching the movie, but I don't know if it's going to be that they necessarily haven't met before, but I don't think like they're trying to establish that he's just already their enemy. But during the movie, what I didn't necessarily like recognize right away is when they're talking about and like laying the groundwork of the Fantastic Four's position in the world at the very beginning. There's a part where like Sue Storm is in front of like the panel of nations or whatever, and it like pans through all of them, and then at Latveria there's like an empty chair, and I like was sitting there for a second. I was like, Latveria, like why is that empty? Like why is it just sitting there? I was like, oh, that's Doom, and he's not there. I was like, so is there already a history here as to why he doesn't like them, or is it just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that right now.
Which, if it's, that is one thing, because I thought about that too a little bit. It's like, it could be one of those things where like, you know, they know Victor and stuff from like a political stance, and then it, you know, becomes something else. But I'm curious to see what they do with that, or why that was like, you know. Or whether or not that meant anything. It might have just been like some kind of Easter egg or something like that. You don't really know.
This did also, as of right now, at least the way they made it seem, and I think this was the intention, I think this, in terms of movies about Fantastic Four, this is the first one where they made it that he wasn't involved in any way that we know of with their original thing that gave them all powers. So it could work that it's just like in this universe, it's that he's been operating completely parallel to them, and then they will all cross paths. And, you know, I'm expecting, because the Fantastic Four is very prominent, that Reed and Sue, and, you know, Ben and Johnny, too, are going to be very important in the Avengers movies, so that will still give them a platform to be, like, arch nemesis to Doom, but it's also going to be with everybody else, so it's going to have that more of, like, team against Thanos vibe rather than, like, Fantastic Four bringing Doom into the fold kind of thing. Which I don't hate, especially with it being Robert Downey Jr., and I think that's going to be very important to it overall. I still don't know how I feel about that, but the idea has grown on me over time, and I think that has a lot of room to explore some wild possibilities with what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, I'm very... And this is kind of getting into a little bit more than we probably need to, but just like, as like a last thing before we're done with this episode. I'm kind of worried about what they're going to do with Doomsday, just because there are a lot of characters that are going to be in it, and I'm like, it seems like where we're at right now, where Fantastic Four has left it, I'm like, there's a lot that you need to explain that's been established, as well as having all these characters in it for some reason. So it's like, what are you going to do story-wise to be like, oh yeah, this happened, and here's why, but also include all these characters in the mix. Hopefully, I just hope that's not too much of a jumbled mess and it's not like overdone.
Yeah, because we got the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, which I was expecting this movie, like, one of the post-credit scenes to kind of explain.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping to.
It's still like, why would the Fantastic Four, even if Doom takes Franklin, need to go to that universe unless, like, he takes Franklin and then goes there? Why, at the end of the movie, before it shows Doom interacting with Franklin, why does it need to be 4 years later?
Yeah.
And just, like... Yeah, it'll be interesting to see why is it this universe needing to go to the main MCU universe, you know?
Yeah. Well, and see, my original thought before seeing the movie and then seeing that post-credit scene was that they were running. But I thought they might have been running from, like, Galactus or something.
Yeah.
And they lost and they were running from Galactus.
Yeah, we both thought they were going to lose.
Yeah.
They did not, but yeah.
But I think still, like, maybe they're not going there to maybe, like, if Doom takes, Franklin or something like that, I don't know if they're going there to get him, or maybe it's one of those things where Doom wants to take Franklin and they're running from Doom.
It could, yeah, maybe for some reason they're like, we need to go here because we can get help from somebody specific here, but it's also, again, like, why choose this specific universe?
Yeah.
Like, why is it all coming to the main MCU?
Yeah.
So that's, like, I don't hate that that's going to be a big question, because I honestly feel like with, like, how Infinity War did, like, Thanos, he just shows up and then it's like, in about 5 minutes you figure out where it's going and, like, what he wants, if you hadn't already picked up on that. So I think with Doomsday they'll have some explaining to do, but I honestly think within the first 5 minutes you'll know exactly what Doom wants, why is everything coming down to this, and, like, where is the movie going to go without them needing to outright in the movies up to it be like, here's Doom, here's why he's this way, here's what he wants, all of that. So I'm excited for that.
I am as well.
I think this movie in general did a good job of kind of just with that split second shot of Doom showing up at the end, made a good way of being like, okay, now I can be excited for Doomsday, because
you see it, he's here.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I don't think so. I like the movie quite a bit. I think it was definitely the strongest version, at least comic book wise, of the Fantastic Four we've had. I'll go through. I like the first two original ones, but this definitely feels the most Fantastic Four, so I really appreciated that.
I agree. I think it's definitely a good watch. I told you earlier that I think that it might be in my top 5 MCU movies ever, which, if not everybody will agree with that, and that's fine, but just personally, I enjoyed it that much.
Yeah, they definitely broke the thing that people joke that there's like an MCU curse where the villains suck and are only in it for one movie. They broke that because they definitely left it open for Galactus to just show up at any random point. So
that is true.
Yeah, and I think almost definitely he will because I doubt that's the last we see of Silver Surfer either.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, any closing thoughts on that other than that?
If you haven't seen it and you're still watching for some reason,
now
go
that
see
you know
it.
Everything that happens.
Yeah, go see it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was a great movie.
It was.
And this is the end of episode 20 of the Fantastic Four.
Yes. So thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.